Hello friends, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Megan, and here we talk about all things books, writing, grammar, and more. Currently, I'm working on my debut novel entitled Queendom of Chaos. So you've probably noticed I have a bit of a new look here. I've been wanting to do this for years, and I'm so happy with it. If you guys haven't already checked out my bonus video from last Friday, you totally should. I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with writing, but my husband and I and our dog took a cross-country road trip for 3 weeks, and it's just basically all our adventures along the way, from Georgia to Washington, and in it you get to see me get my hair all done, and you also get to see a little sneak peek into my life. So I want to talk about something that I haven't seen a lot out there, and that's how to find a beta reader as a non-established author. I think a lot of the advice out there is for people who already have a book or two under their belt, but it's really hard when you are writing your debut novel to know how to do all of these things. So as someone who is currently working on my debut novel and going through the beta reader process, I felt like I had a bit of knowledge on the things that do and do not work, and I want to share all that with you. So first, let's talk about what a beta reader actually is. I see a lot of confusion from other writers on what a beta reader is and when to use them. Okay, so you guys ready for like the most obvious statement ever? Beta readers are readers that read your novel. They do this before publication, but this is really important. It's after your critique partner and self-editing process. I have seen countless writers who are looking for beta readers for their full novel, but have only written like the first 1 or 2 chapters. This is not when you need to be getting beta readers. You want a critique partner here. Now, yes, you can get beta readers for different small segments of your novel, but it shouldn't be before you've done any critique work or self-edits on this. So, what's the difference between a critique partner and a beta reader? Critique partners are other writers who you swap manuscripts with early in the writing process, and you give each other constructive feedback on your story. And this actually can contribute to some of the largest edits that you will make in your early manuscript. Beta readers, however, are just readers giving you feedback on whether or not your story is enjoyable. They may also give you some feedback on characters, plot, pace, if your plot twist was super obvious, but they're not going to be giving you constructive feedback or telling you how to fix certain sections of your novel. Beta readers should be reading a well-polished version of your novel because, again, it's gone through multiple revisions. You've gone through the critique partner process as well as the self-editing process. So they shouldn't be reading something full of just grammatical errors and where you haven't figured out, what you're doing with a certain character or the plot. They should be reading a pretty well-finished manuscript. So now that we know when to search for beta readers, let's look at the 4 main categories of readers you will sift through in order to find beta readers, the good and the bad of each, and how to actually find them. First up are beta readers that you pay. You can find these just about anywhere. Some have their own websites, you can look on social media, or even platforms such as Fiverr or Upwork. You will find prices ranging from $5 to hundreds of dollars for these sorts of services. So the pros here, when you pay someone to read your work, they're much more likely to actually finish reading your work. I'm sure most of us are familiar with those beta readers who are super excited to read our books, and then you send it to them and they don't even open the file. They just disappear off the face of the earth. You're most likely going to have a lot less of that when you pay someone because they're actually getting something in return. But the cons here, I think, are pretty big. When you're paying someone to look over your work, they often feel like they may need to give you a ton of positive feedback, and they may not give you a lot of criticisms on the parts of your story that you really need to work on. They may not be honest and upfront with you about your work because they want to please the person that's giving them money. And if this is their business, they may not want to risk negative reviews from someone who can't handle criticism. So they're going to try to please you here. In my own personal experience, hiring beta readers is not the way to go. They either didn't finish the work or they just gave me a bunch of flowery responses that really didn't help at all in my novel. To me, the cons greatly outweigh the pros, and I no longer look for any sort of beta readers this way. However, if you are going to hire someone to beta read your story, I would suggest a middle sort of range for payment. If you're too low, they may feel that the amount of work is not worth their time. But if you're paying too much, then why not just hire a professional editor? Next is family and friends. Most of the people you know are super excited to read your story, and they would love the opportunity to be a beta reader for you. Usually these people will actually finish your story, and they're going to give you a ton of feedback. But realistically, most, if not all of this feedback is going to be praise based on how much they love you, and not an actual critique of your work. This sort of feedback has absolutely no use to you. The term love is blind doesn't exist for no reason. This is exactly why I never use family and friends as beta readers. Next are volunteers who you don't really know. These people will read your story just for the love of reading, and they can't wait to get their hands on something that no one else has, and a lot of them actually love that they feel like they're a part of the publishing experience. But as a newbie author, it's a total toss-up on whether people will actually follow through for you or not. Since these are volunteers reading your work, there isn't this huge amount of pressure for them to actually finish your novel if they don't like it or something else just comes up in their lives. But on the flip side, the feedback that you're going to get back from them is going to be real and honest and helpful for you. This is the category that I suggest you try to get the bulk of your readers from, but I want you to keep in mind most are going to drop out, and you're probably never going to get an explanation as to why. Now, I know many established authors will tell you that beta readers not finishing your novel should be taken as some sort of hint that your novel isn't worth reading, but I wouldn't really read that far into it if this is your first novel. The time that I actually would read more into this is if all of the feedback you are getting is saying those things to you. I find that far too few people are actually accountable in everyday life, so it really doesn't surprise me the amount of people who don't start or finish the project and they don't tell you why. So personally, I started in this category with about 12.5 beta readers. Of those, probably 6 of them never even opened the file that I sent them. So to me, this isn't telling me that my story's no good. This is telling me they just didn't want to read it. Of the rest of the beta readers, about half of those dropped out before finishing the novel. And of the 6 that actually did finish my novel, only 1 told me that they did not like it. And once I actually went back through their feedback, what their feedback told me was they didn't understand the story, and that's why they didn't like it. It's not that my book is super complex or anything, but when someone reads a third of a book that's set in the early 1900s, and they're telling you that your MC doesn't speak modern enough for modern times, and they have somehow gotten a third of the way through the book thinking that the book is set in modern day, when it's clearly set in the early 1900s, just tells me that I should take the rest of their feedback with a giant grain of salt. And you're gonna have that too. Some people are just not going to get your book and they're going to hate it, and that's okay. You can find these sorts of people willing to read your book in a number of places. Some of the top places that I find are Facebook groups dedicated to beta reading. These are insanely helpful. Genre-specific Facebook groups, Instagram, YouTube, Goodreads, your own author website or mailing list, and writing communities. If you're in need of a writing community, check out my video on how to build a writer community. One thing I will say is that you need to acknowledge that these volunteers are doing something huge for you. Because of this, I think it's a really good idea to give your beta readers a free ARC copy of your novel as a thank you for their time. This can also be a really big incentive for bringing beta readers onto your team, because who doesn't want a free book? And the final category is swaps with fellow writers. This is personally where I've had the most success with people actually finishing the novel and giving me thorough feedback. And while I do find this to be the most successful group to look for, it's also going to be the most time-consuming for you. Swapping is a fantastic way to get other people to finish your novel because they want you to finish their novel. You're also going to get thorough feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because you're providing it to them. They will give you a lot more well-rounded feedback because they know the importance of the beta reader process. They want that feedback from you, so they're most likely going to give it to you. But here's the catch. You need a ton of beta readers for this process to even be worth it for you. You're probably going to be needing to do 2 to 3 rounds of betas, and each round probably has to have at least 10 people in it. So if you're just doing swaps with other writers, that's about 20 novels that you're reading for other people, which is a ton of your time and energy that you could be spending where it really needs to be spent for your novel, such as the editing, the communicating with the beta readers, the marketing, all of that good stuff. This is a lot of time taken out on your part. So while I do find this to be the most helpful option, you really need to weigh out how much your time is worth for swapping with other writers. Now, you will find these people in your writing communities. So Facebook groups. Join as many Facebook groups as you can for your genre, beta reading groups, new authors, how to self-publish. Join all of these groups. You're going to start building a really good community. Also, whatever social media you use, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, whatever, set up a writing community, and you need to let people know what you need. Let them know the title of your book, the genre, the age category, how long your book is, and give them a quick synopsis. This is going to be the most helpful for you finding people who actually would read your book anyway. You don't want just anyone reading your book. You want people who already would be reading your book. If you're writing an adult fantasy novel, you don't want to get a bunch of people who read romance novels. It's not going to be helpful for you because many of them don't enjoy that genre anyway. They're not really going to enjoy your book, and it's going to look like you're writing something bad or that people aren't enjoying when you're just getting the wrong sorts of people to read your book. So my biggest suggestion to you guys is to do a mix of these categories. Many people are willing to read your manuscript just for fun or in exchange for a free copy of your novel. You need to find as many of those people as you possibly can. This needs to be the bulk of your betas. I would also suggest to supplement some of those with swaps. And if you still don't have enough, you can pay if you really want. You can try it out. You don't have to take my word for it. You can try it. It might work really well for you. It didn't work at all for me. So good luck if you go down that route. So yes, this does mean you're going to be doing a lot of work up front if you can't get a lot of volunteers, and mostly you need to be doing swaps. But it will absolutely be worth it to have a wide scope of feedback on your novel for you to actually improve it or to know if it's already good. And who knows, maybe by next book you'll have even more volunteers. So there are my best tips for finding reliable beta readers as a debut author. Let me know in the comments the places that you've been most successful in finding your betas. And if you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more bookish and writing related videos. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.